Testing. So, what do you want to know about the economy? Well, I can tell you one thing. It's not getting better, that's for sure. In what way? Well, first of all, we're borrowing more money than we actually have. And that's a bad sign. If we're really going to pay back the debt, we shouldn't be borrowing money in the first place. We should actually be repaying. So it's not a good sign in particular. There's a lot of issues at stake. Issues such as unemployment, it's going to rise. And how do I know this? Well, I don't have to know this. Everybody knows this. Almost everyone who has a conscience, who has critical thinking, who can see things in the future. And unless there's something about I don't know, or the majority of the people don't know, at this rate where we're going, at this rate at which we're going, it's speechless. It just speaks for itself. How we'll be affected will be based on the way we have to change. Our way of life has to change. It won't be the same as it was before. The hugest move is that we are going through, or into, if we're not in it yet, the automation age. Now, the automation age is where less human labor and more machines. You're not going to pay a machine. You're not going to feed a machine. The machine will do more work than you ever will, and more efficiently and more faster. It's designed to do that. And that's what it's designated for. Humans are humans. What we make up for, what we lack, we make up for as being a human. A machine isn't. But companies don't understand it. Well, they don't care. All they care about, and it's not their fault. They want to profit. But all they care about is making profit. And if they don't find ways to maximize their profits or beat their competitors, they're going to lose out. So that all the competitors are going to find ways to maximize their profit, and manufacture things the most efficient and the most effective. It's an example of saying that globalization, you know how you had to find the cheapest labor in order to maximize your profits? Same thing here. Except the difference is we don't even need cheap labor at all either. What we need is just repetitive machinery that just spits out a more cost-effective product. And that's what it is about these days. Well, naturally, that's what it is in the name of just making money. And that's just how it is with humans. We all want to make money. And you all want to profit. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's inevitable at the direction in which we're going. And if the government or us humans as a species don't change that, it's going to get ugly. With technology comes great advantages and benefits, but we have to change. And the system and the laws which we have adopted to and got used to has to change. It's the only way to survive. One of the great things of being a human is that we adapt. And I think it's important that we do that. Because in order to advance as a human species, we have to change. The way of life we will see it 20 years ago compared to 20 years ahead will be very different. Having said that, there's nothing we can do about it in terms of the job losses, in terms of the many things that's happening right now. But there's one thing we can do, is that we have to change. The problem is this: are we able to change? We don't like to change our way of life, our lifestyle, because it impedes or intervenes with the way we see life. And you know what? That's right, it's true. But we are changing, and the way we're changing, we have to change with it. Look, as much as I find it disturbing that all these changes are happening, and in a quite rapid pace, it's eventually going to happen. Well, that's a start. Because I can tell you now, the way we're going, it's not going to work to change. And secondly, we're a consumer producer system, right? So we produce things. You go to work, you produce a product, but who's going to consume it? Who's going to buy it? If people don't have money. If they're going to get rid of you because they found machines to be the most effective way to make money and make the products, they're forgetting that who's going to buy their products. But they're going to assume that, oh, well, you know what? That's not going to happen. There will still be people who buy products, so we'll get rid of our staff. But other companies, we're assuming that they'll keep the staff, and they're going to be consumers. They're going to buy our products. That's a very bold statement you're making. Especially when just as much as every single company wants to outsource their job because it's cheap labor, I'm pretty sure in the future every single company wants to convert all their workers to machines. I once said, and I proudly say it again, is that the only time we can reach a utopia is that when everybody has the same thinking, the same spirituality, the same thinking, the same mentality, the same philosophy, the same methodology, the same everything. Because we can agree on many things. We can agree on everything. We can't fault each other. That's the only time we can just reach a utopia. And that's why utopia is impossible. Utopia is not for humanity. That's why I always say communism is a utopia. It's a great system. Works like a charm. It has the has the bells and whistles, but hey, the only downfall, the only fault is us. We cannot use it. Robots will be able to use it. At least that's what I believe. And different thinking comes from the environment we live in. And that's what makes our culture. That's why sometimes culture isn't compatible. That's why sometimes I believe that multiculturality will sometimes work as long as we understand each other, respect our differences. But is that happening? I don't know, you tell me. So, I'm just trying to get back to the point. I'm straying from the topic here. Where do I see the future? Well, I really see a future that we have to change, that we are forced to change. If we don't, then there'll be a lot of suffering. There's already a lot of suffering already. I see more people on the streets of Melbourne. I see more people actually don't have a place to live. I don't know what's going on. 20 years ago, I never saw that. But now I see it. There'll be more of them. And I can tell you, our way of practices of life has become very cheap. For one example is our development of buildings. Hell, I heard last night they built buildings that has very low fire rating, and they were fined. Why? All in the name of maximizing profit. Opal Tower, who knows? That's the same thing. They found out, according to the reports, that they were using low-strength concrete. Why? Doesn't make any sense. Especially if you use a different, for building that prestigious, you should be using high-quality materials. You don't want to disappoint the investors, unless the investors are part of the game. So basically, technology is a good thing. We're enjoying the feats of it. We're enjoying what it can offer for us. And hey, I'm not against it, but I am against us not changing. And as much as like I said, it's disturbing that the way we're changing is too fast. We have to change with it. Otherwise, and that's why I believe that we cannot live forever. Immortality. It'd be good to live forever. And that's one of the reasons we can't, because things change. And our old ways of thinking is not compatible with the new ways of thinking. So therefore, nature has offered us a way to transcend into another world and start again. And that's why we age. At least that's my philosophy and understanding. That's why society can advance if they have similar thinking. It's good to have different thinking, because that's how we can have outliers of developing new things beyond the thinking outside of the square, if you say. Anyway, I'd like to talk about another thing, and to talk about it in the next topic is overpopulation. Are we being overpopulated? No, I don't think we're overpopulated. This earth can sustain a lot more people. Theoretically, it can sustain probably 55 billion, I heard. But are we oversustained? Yes. Overpopulation versus oversustainability. There's a difference. You can have a country, say here in Melbourne, we have a good water resource, and I heard in New Zealand water is basically free. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I was told. But if we start to put in more people who live there, just put more population into that equation, how do you think it's going to fare? Is there enough water for everybody? Do we have to build a lot of more water facilities to provide for the people? Yeah, Oh yeah, we may not have enough because nature and the environment is very limited. We have finite amount of resources, and therefore we cannot provide for everybody, and therefore it's unsustainable. I think in Shanghai they're having a problem with their sewage problem. It's just too many people, and it's affecting the marine environment over there. They're just outletting all their wastes into the sea because they don't have enough of sewage facilities to process them. If that's true, then that's one example of being unsustainable. That's why if we're going to allow more people into our country, we have to consider whether it's sustainable or not. If it's not, build the infrastructure to do so. If we don't build the infrastructure to do so, then we really are lagging behind. And what's stopping us is pretty much the economy. More money we have to borrow, more resources. And hey, let's just say the money here is just copy and paste. We don't really know how much we borrowed. Hey, let alone, I heard the United States is $22 trillion in debt, if that's national debt. But what you don't know is that if you count all the numbers all together, they're actually over $60 trillion in debt. That's a lot. Where, you might ask? I don't know, you tell me. They can't even figure out where the money went. They owe, say, $22 trillion in national debt, according to the reports, last time I checked. But hey, you tell me, is that a true figure? I don't know. I heard it was $60 trillion. How do I know that? Well, it's been another report. So why the discrepancy between the two figures? That's a huge figure. Well, maybe because one of them is the debt throughout the history of the United States, and that's how much they really owe. And then why the difference? Maybe because they can't figure out where the other money went. Well, then if they don't know where the money went, how do we know it's $60 trillion in debt? Well, I don't know, you tell me. We're maybe more in debt, we're maybe less in debt, but that's where the ballpark figure is. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. I won't talk too much about the overpopulation versus sustainability because that's another time. But I do want to let you know one thing. The economy, and just to go back on the other topic, the economy can only sustain us for so long because it's a temporary thing. And like I said, unless we change the way we do our, or how well we live, it's not going to be able to sustain this sort of living for a long time, especially with the change now that we're going. It may have worked a long time ago, it may have worked 40 years ago, but now we're not in that era anymore. We're on to the next phase in our life, next generation, next few generations, and we have to change. It's a very sensitive thing, the economy. Think of the economy as 100,000 sprinkles of sprockets, hundreds of thousands. Yeah, just to have a better example of what I'm trying to explain here. Hundreds of thousands, think of that. And if you change one big sprocket or gear in the economy, everything else is affected. You change the small one, it may not affect the major gear, but it affects the other gears around it. And the economy is what churns those gears is what churns our economy over and over and over. Think of it that way. If you can think of it that way, you can understand the economy is a very sensitive thing. It's not a simple numbers of money. It basically is a huge complexity, a matrix of numbers that can really bewilder you. That's why I don't really talk about the economy, because I'm not good with money. I'll be honest with that. But there's one thing I understand is that money is numbers, and I'm good at my numbers. And as long as I think as money as energy, it's easier to understand, because energy is, energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, it can only be transferred. That's always been the simple idea according to Physics 101. Cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, can only be transferred from one form to another. Okay, fair enough. So it's the conservation of energy, except for the economy is not a conservation of the economy. It's an ever growing debt that we just produce every single time. So every single time we lend out money,